I think I can still do them on my own. Not trusting.
Oh, she or she. Yeah. That's good. We're up there screaming.
Where do you go?
Okay, 4:30, let's open the meeting of Whitestone Council. Pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First on the agenda here, I have the minutes of the January 24th meeting. And it was sent out to us. Is there any additions or corrections to those meetings?
We did correct on your copy. There was a digit missing in one thing and a paragraph missing, and Charmaine caught them, and we did add those to it. So,
Okay. Any other? Just otherwise, I'll make a motion that we accept the meetings of the January 24th Boys County Council meetings as presented with those changes.
So moved.
First, may I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Yes.
So you
get two first.
Well, I think she was second. I thought, okay.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. No, I
I have Charmaine and Alex. Is that how they are? Well, I had you, but then somebody else did it. So
I had you, but I already brushed you up.
Okay.
Sorry,
Okay,
Mark.
no,
So who's it gonna be?
I didn't tell me.
it's Charmaine.
and Alex.
Okay.
Alex.
Was it Alex?
Yeah,
That's what I thought.
I hope the meeting.
Hey, if anything crazy comes from down here, you know why. I already explained why.
Okay, first, at 4:30 here, Ryan, you know.
Hello,
Ryan, could you introduce yourself for the public?
Ryan Young, I'm the Director of Emergency Services at the hospital and the Dukes County EMS Coordinator.
Okay.
So just wanted to come to you today. I talked to the commissioners last meeting. So on our vehicle status, we had a new vehicle that was supposed to be delivered in July, and we still have not received it yet. That is to replace our oldest truck, which is a 2009. It's got 330,000 miles on it. And so hopeful that it will be here this coming month, but I'm not going to hold my breath. So kind of where we're at is, as I got to looking at the numbers, so we have two trucks that are 2012s, and both of them have 300. One's got 305, and the other one's got 312,000 miles on it. So I would like to start the process to purchase another one. Right now, they're telling me it's anywhere from 12 to 14 months from the time you award the bid. So we're looking at least that time, unless something drastic changes in the economy and they start pushing trucks out. When I talked to the commissioners, I think Commissioner Blessinger looked it up, and both of these vehicles were scheduled on the strategic plan that would be replaced this year. So I would kind of like to just get started with one of them and kind of go from there.
So I'm curious how that works. You know, if they don't deliver it, 12 to 14 months, do you pay up front and then they finally deliver it whenever it gets delivered? How does that work? Or do you pay once it's delivered?
No, I think it's pay on delivery.
We have to have the money in place. He can order or do the bidding process to order it. And then if we cross calendar years, we just encumber it because it follows that order.
I
So
just
we
didn't know
had-
how that, if you had to like pay
We
something.
had the money, still have the money because we had to cover it from last year into this year's budget.
For his previous, the one that's on order that should arrive soon.
Supposed to be arriving anytime.
So will that be a 22 model or a 21 model? The one we're gonna get?
I believe it will be a 21 model. All the arrangements, like I said, it was supposed to be delivered in July of last year. And so they just continuing to push it off.
Is that a Ford vehicle?
I'm not sure.
Like I said, it's a Chevy chassis.
I think it's a Chevy. They're telling me right now that Ford's the easiest to get. Chevy's probably the hardest to get. But I think
That's what we're seeing with our fleet vehicles, that's why I ordered. But with the Windsor Bridge being shut down for a while, it's hard to say, because a lot of parts that move across there.
For the 2012 holding out, were we all?
so. This year, the one we spent about $9,400 on repairs, and the other we spent $18,500. So a little short of $30,000 in repairs on those two trucks this year. So the 2009 we spent about $5,300 on it, but there's a couple things that we haven't fixed, knowing that we're going to get rid of it, so we didn't want to put this any more money than we had to, basically. So.
So I guess that process here, would you have to obtain bids for that?
Yes, so my understanding is we would, we have a spec, so we would put the spec out there and bid it out. And then, once the bid is awarded, then, we start from there, but we have to have the money in place before the bid can be
So you
awarded.
guys would have to appropriate the funding first,
First,
then he can start.
so how would we know how much to appropriate?
I would say off of what we currently have coming in, I think what we had, 300.
I don't know what you had appropriated for the last one, was it around 300,000?
I think it was, yeah. That's the money we reallocated into this budget.
Would we be able to trade that, get some money off of?
I can check and see, from what I understand from, when, Susan was in, Mark Humper does all the maintenance, and he was involved in a lot of that, and he said that you get more money if you try to sell it outright than do it in appraisal.
So obviously you have not advertised, so it's just a consensus of how much you want to do for an additional appropriation.
And again, this likely would not be until the 2023 budget timeframe that the money can be spent.
Well, before you can spec it right, before you could do anything, bid it out, we have to have it in place, and we just hold it until that time. More than likely, that's where we've taken it in the past.
Probably have to at least raise it 15% on top of our last one.
The worst thing that can happen is you appropriate so much money and then the bids come in higher, then you have to go back.
So what would be, I guess first of all, do we, as a council, we had comments, do we have to go ahead with this, or would it be wise to go ahead with it?
Well, if you think it's up 15%, that'll put it around 345, 350,000. So,
Brian, does that seem?
And I mean, honestly, I think, I don't know, this is my first time to do this, so I have no idea. I think from where we were last year, I think that's a reasonable, I don't think it would be any more than that, I guess I would say.
was final bid or the winning bid, 300,000 or above.
I believe that's where we have the money.
With everybody really close to it, so that we can, that's a good starting point to go on.
I can review
I mean,
it
if
and
it's
find
that
out.
out really close, then there's no reason to $2,000 difference.
So it could get more and more difficult to get
Right.
these things,
That's the word.
especially product. So I guess I don't know if there's other discussions. Anybody have any other discussion?
Will you be doing the same kind of ambulance you've had before, with the chassis and then put the box and all that?
Just just ask for a consensus to go ahead and advertise for that amount. $350,000 for a new ambulance in 2023.
Do you reuse the box for the old one, or do you always get a new one?
That was another discussion we had. There's some other counties, I think Perry County has done that before. And I talked to Mark about that, and Susan looked into it 1 year and it wasn't that much. You didn't save very much money at all. I think it was less than $10,000 to save. So again, wasn't worth it at that point too. More of a headache than it was.
I just didn't know if it was the fact they're holding the guy up, and if it would be feasible
It's the vehicle.
And then the trade-in, if you're sitting there with a chassis, the trade-in's not gonna be worth much.
Right.
It's probably the box on there that would make a trade-in worthwhile for.
Right. I've had a couple of people reach out interested in like food trucks and stuff, so that's what they would want to use it for. So I think, with the box on it, that would be worth it.
Any more discussion? Want us to have a show of hands that we had advertised this for $350,000? Okay, so it looks like a consensus. Thanks.
Thank you.
That's right.
So what do you next? We're a little early, but
It's good with it. Good afternoon.
Hello. Can you introduce yourself for the
Stuart Wilson, Director of the 911 Center. And I hope everybody received the email I sent out a couple of weeks ago to give you an update. If you're not aware, I have appeared in front of the commissioners and they have reviewed the information that I provided to them, and they have voted in support of changing the work schedule to a 40-hour-a-week schedule for the assistant director position. Trying to think if there was anything else. I think the rest of it really pertains to the finances and the financial end of it, which is why I'm here for this request. I covered it pretty thoroughly in my email, but the gist of it is I need my assistant director present in the 911 center more often than what I have now. I also think there's some on the commissioner's end and the work schedule end, PTO end, and work hours. I don't know that we were really operating in the best way. It was difficult at best for the auditor's office and myself for payroll tracking purposes to keep track of it. My assistant director is here tonight, Kim Snyder. She is wholeheartedly in support of this. It is an increase in her hours, but of course it's an increase in compensation as well. If the request is granted, she is a fan of more money in her pocket for the more hours worked, and I think it's a worthwhile investment. I lean very heavily on my assistant director. She's extremely dedicated. She just came in yesterday on a day off and worked a 12-hour shift to fill a shortage that came up because of somebody calling in sick. She's incredibly dedicated, and I don't doubt for a second that this is money well spent on her efforts for the 911 center. Certainly we'll answer any questions that anybody has. Kim is here to answer any questions if anybody would like to speak to her about it. I've talked to Sandy about it. There is we need to change to the payroll ordinance to regularly compensate her in this way that we're talking about in the amount of, I think it was $133.38 per
68.
bi-weekly. 68 now?
Oh, it is 38.
All right.
133.38.
Okay. In her bi-weekly pay. And that would come out of an existing budget item that I do have to cushion in for this, the rest of this calendar year, the rest of this budget year. Because we don't pay full wages to our probationary telecommunicators, and because I do have some of those as of now, I have enough cushion in that general fund line item that those officers are paid out of to get through the calendar year. In preparations for the 2023 budget year, I would likely be requesting that this be added into her surcharge line item to clean it up and not have separate payroll entries and just put it all under the.
We can't do that because you're paying her out of general fund.
Right, for 2023 though.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, for the rest of this year, we can't
This
do
year
it
has
out
to
of
be
the,
split.
it has to be split. Sandy and I have devised a plan where that works without any extra efforts other than an extra line item entry or an extra entry on the payroll form for the rest of the calendar year. I think Brooke in the auditor's office, who processes payroll, welcomes this change as well. Her and I have struggled drastically since June of last year.
Just to try to figure out like how to better track it or?
Well, so the assistant director's position was always on the same compensation as all the telecommunicators on their work hours. And it was 37 1/3 hours per week is what it averaged out to be. And it was based on a 224-hour, 6-week cycle. Well, we don't pay every 6 weeks. So tracking 1/3 of hours was incredibly difficult. So we
But on
did it
top of
all.
that, she was given 8 hours of PTO time.
Which
And then
probably-
she constantly earned comp time because of that.
Well, where I'm getting hung up at is on the payroll side, paying her out of the 2 different funds. I mean, could we not just appropriate a little bit extra in the statewide fund that she's already getting paid out of mostly so that you don't have to
Well,
pay out of both funds?
the problem with that is he doesn't have the extra money in the statewide 911 side. He has it in the general fund side because that's where his newer employees that are on probation are. So if we want to use that money that's up,
Okay, I see what you're saying, to not have more budgeted,
Sure.
right.
but does that create a kind of a?
It should be okay. We have other people that are paid out of multiple funds, so it should be okay.
Yeah, and
For
our
this
department,
year.
I have a whole, it's not quite 50-50, but it's about half and half on persons that are paid out of the surcharge funds and persons that are paid out of general funds. My payroll, and other departments from what I've heard, it looks kind of, it's hard to understand on paper at first glance, but once, at this point, I've become pretty comfortable with it, other than simple mistakes that I continue to make on payroll that the auditor's diligent work catches. But I think it's a good use of that, which would just be extra dollars that would roll back to the general fund at the end of the year. They're already there. We'll have to have more in-depth discussion about those surcharge funds and the pathway moving forward at a later meeting. I hope to get it with Councilman Grolick, Councilman Kleesner, and we're going to talk about, or very early on, because of my budget requirements, having to have an approval from my advisory board. That is May 16th. So we're going to have to be really early. So very soon, we're going to have to get together and talk and find a pathway, talking about shortfalls in the surcharge dollars, where we want to be at budget-wise. We have a 911 center move coming up, where some of those funding items are coming from. It's just we're going to need to get work early on this budget planning for the 2023. Hopefully, nobody leaves, quits, gets sick, anything. And if that is the case, I will lose this cushion, and this change in assistant director's wages will have to be put as a permanent item in the surcharge funds. If somebody leaves, we could end up with the same cushion again. And when we were in that situation last year, we did redirect some of those monies into a line item that allowed me to pay down comp time, and we were gaining because we were short telecommunicators. Being as diligent as I can, but I'm also new.
I just want to check to make sure, to make it the easiest on,
Sure.
the claims for payroll.
Well, we kind of wholeheartedly worked on this together and agreed that it's ridiculous every 2 weeks to make her accrue comp time.
Yeah.
We should just be paying it out and be done.
And Kim's words were, she really had more time off than she needed between the PTO that she received, the comp time that she gained because of working more hours than what her schedule compensated her for. It's I don't know, I hope somebody that would, looking forward, it is really an administrative position. I need her there Monday through Friday, I need her there when I'm there. She also has some other responsibilities. This will put her in the office to be able, hopefully, to have her stay caught up more often. We lean on her very heavily on an administrative end, but we also still have her working a console position 2 days a week. So she's kind of a hybrid employee. For now, that's where we're at with our current staffing and the supervising things that she does in the center. That's where we're at. That may change in the future, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Don't just try to take everything one step at a time.
So she will have her pay that she's been getting now out of the state surcharge fund. And then this will be in addition to that out of the general fund. And we'd like to have that effective starting today if you approve it.
If it would be approved today, I would turn into the auditor's office a revised payroll that would be effective on the payroll that is in process right now.
Well, this pay period started yesterday.
So what is the ask is then 133.38
Bi-weekly out of the state surcharge fund,
This is an addition.
in addition to what she's being paid
Paid now.
currently.
Before we make that, the question before I forget here, were you training to work the console?
I am, and as of today, I am released from training with restrictions. So it's been a long road. It just effective today. I'm released with conditions, and those conditions being that I'm not to work as part of a 2-person crew. So it can't just be me and one other telecommunicator, but I can work a console position as part of a 3-person crew till I gain some speed. And just 2 days a week was difficult to accommodate. I thought it was reasonable, and then all of a sudden I ended up not being in that position 2 days a week because you have a meeting here or something you have to attend, and a lot of conflicts that have happened over the last 11 months of being in this position. But we're finally there. I've completed all my online coursework, all the state certifications and state requirements that are required. I probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 175 hours of online coursework, in addition to all the in-person training that the assistant director has provided to me at the center. So,
Well, thanks for
that.
So Kim, is he a good student?
Yes.
Yeah, what's the good thing? It's been hard. It's a hard job. It's an incredibly hard job. I knew it was going to be a hard job. I didn't. Until you do it, I have no idea how difficult that position is. So it really has given me a lot of respect for our telecommunicators and what they do and have done, some of them for a very long time, 15, 16, 17 years. It's a hard job, but it's incredibly important.
stressful too.
Us, yes, absolutely.
So thanks.
So if you guys are working together a lot, what happens in your off time if something comes up? Are you running in or taking calls, or how are you
So
splitting that up?
at some point, I will fill in as well. We have relied on Kim or just calling around and trying to find a person that's available to go in. If it's something, this week we have an employee with COVID, probably, COVID positive child, so she's out. And we had another person that had to call in. I don't know, you say it's short notice, it's different there, about 2 hours, 2.5 hours before shift. So we have to find somebody to work our spot. And what we did yesterday is we had an employee that worked over until Kim could get in the center and work the remainder of the 12-hour shift. So I hope to be part of that. I want to be part of that. It makes me feel bad that I'm not, training-wise, I'm not to the point where I can be that guy. I would gladly be that guy. I'm used to being that guy, getting called out from home. And, I've lived that career, and my family's used to it. I hate that I couldn't be the guy. Makes you feel about this big, but
It's coming.
It'll get here soon enough and I'll regret being that guy. But, we just do as best we can. And we try not to overload. We have some employees that are very quick to step up. Aaron Miller stepped up, just today and plans on tomorrow, filling some shortages. We have some incredibly dedicated staff there. And they don't blink an eye, they just show up and do their work. Good people.
Okay, Sandy, so how would we, is this can you explain what this would be? Would this be a,
He's got the money already in the line item in the state, in the general fund under the,
It's called CMG, whatever the code is for.
that's a payroll code for y'all. It's under where his telecommunicators are already in the general fund.
General fund dollars.
So
Okay.
she'll be paid her regular normal, what we budgeted for already out of the one fund, and then this fund will be out of that line item, 133.38.
so is this an additional?
You don't need an additional, it's already, money's already there, he's not using it because he's got some people not being paid at 100%. So he's gonna use that money to pay for this position.
What's the wording, I guess?
So all you need is an amendment to the salary ordinance,
Amendment to the salary, so we want to understand it, so.
so we can pay her more.
Otherwise, I'll look for a motion,
I'll make that motion.
okay, Becky made the motion, may I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Craig seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thanks, Stuart.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Aidan.
I heard you yesterday on the radio. Love it. Yeah.
Yeah, we were pretty busy yesterday.
Yeah, we had a field fire, even in this wet, we had a field fire.
So, Sean, is he,
I assumed he's gonna be here at 5.
so we're running.
Yeah, you're just a few minutes early. If you'd like to do what's on my list down below, we can start that otherwise.
Okay.
I mean, unless you want to wait.
No, that's well, because then you don't look like you can be there.
I have the appointment for
Adam, so,
the LifeSpring Health Systems.
did anyone call that one? Okay, so he's,
Yeah, I sent that out a couple of months ago, I'll let you know when you get back with me.
oh, that's right,
That's
yeah,
it.
that's been a while, okay.
Yeah.
So we would just need a motion to approve that.
I have that this term serves from March 18th, 2022 to March 18th, 2025.
I move we approve Alan Smock for that LifeSpring appointment.
Okay, got a motion on the floor to approve that, and I have a second.
I'll second.
Alex seconded, all in favor say aye.
Okay.
Anyone opposed?
There he is, see, double tap.
On time, Sean.
Gotta get home, get the kids, and get back in time. Am I up, I guess?
Yes, could you introduce yourself?
Sean Werner, the Voice County Health Department. All right, so today, shouldn't take too long, hopefully. Last time I was here, I asked for a full-time nurse position for the crisis FOAC grant to help with the health department and school needs. We had that position open for 2 weeks and we got basically 0 applicants. So I guess today I'm asking you to take the full-time nursing position and move it to PRN so I can just fulfill those duties with my PRNs that I currently have. So it would take the full-time position out of this budget and then just put PRN in.
The commissioners have already approved this.
Yeah, the commissioners already approved it. So then I wouldn't have to pay the insurance. And those line items would then be moved into the PRN line items. So that would give me, do they have a copy of this?
Well, actually, what we did, what we've done, Connie and I worked on today, is we're gonna we have nurse, but we have /PRN, so we're gonna keep the money in that line item,
But we took some of the money out of
but we're
insurance.
gonna do a transfer.
Yeah.
To put a little bit more money in that line item so that it's there for the PRN position. So I have two different things. I have a salary amendment ordinance, so we can pay the PRN $22.33 per hour, which mimics everything else he's got for PRNs. And then I've got a transfer to move, we won't need health insurance. He has no full-time, well, you'll
We
have
won't
one,
need health insurance for the nurse, we still need
Right.
health insurance for the
Right.
clerk.
so he'll move one of the person's health insurance to the nursing PRN position, and then we'll change the perf because we won't need the perf for this position, and we'll move that to FICA.
So from what I understand, was it legislation that was passed, that the schools don't have to do the contact tracing and all
That
that?
changed last Wednesday,
Yeah,
yes.
so that should take a pretty big burden off of it.
So this grant allows us to do other things for the schools that they're far behind on, whether it be vision screenings, hearing, helping them try to get all their immunization records for their children up to date, entering information into CHIRP. If a nurse is out that day and they need somebody to come, we could help fill in with that.
Okay.
So PRN might actually be a better option because we have 5 or 6 PRNs, and if 2 schools need something on one day, we could potentially send, 2 nurses, rather than the 1 full-time nurse. We don't be able to have 1 school in a day, so.
That'd be a big help, especially since one nurse can't be in 5 or 6 schools at one time.
And some schools don't even have a school nurse, like Holy Trinity, they may welcome us to be there every now and then.
What's your feel on why you didn't get any applicants? Is it the nursing shortage or the pay thing?
It's a combination of many things. Most of what we probably heard is the wage compared to what a nurse can make elsewhere. They'll go to the hospital, traveling nurses, and they'll make anywhere from $60, $100, up to $200 an hour being a nurse right now. And we're trying to pay $23. That's probably the biggest reason most of them turned it down. We did have 6 applicants we actually have 2 positions open. We had a full-time nurse and then this part-time nurse. So we advertised this for a year and a half. Nobody wanted to go for this one. They all went for the full-time nurse, but they all 6 backed out. So we had to repost it. We're gonna start interviews again this week to try to fill that full-time position that I have open.
Seen Senator Vasquez talk about nursing shortage or forecasting in the end of the day. I mean, what's the plan going forward? Because I mean, temporarily we can fix this, but what are we gonna do when we do need full-time nurses?
That's a good question. We're struggling to even get applicants right now. But I have a hard time competing against these traveling nursing contracts in hospitals right now just because of the pay range. And that's probably all stems from COVID because there was so much money thrown at, hospitals and these temp agencies to get these nurses because there is a shortage. And obviously when there's a shortage, there's a demand, which makes everything go up. But I can't take my salary and just make it go because I want to like they can.
Well, hopefully, some of this COVID money and all that's gonna start going away.
Hopefully.
And they won't be able to sustain that, or your medical bills will go through the roof.
Yeah, and then the reason I probably didn't build that compound is who's gonna wanna come for 6 months with a possible year extension? They could be getting out the door in no time. So it's probably the unreliability of knowing how long this grant's gonna last too.
Good point. Any other questions for Sean or?
So you wanna know these numbers? So like the clerk, we had 37,310 in that line item, that's gonna stay. The nurse, full-time nurse, we had 41,860. That's gonna stay in there, and then we're gonna add
13,750.
13,750 from the insurance, which would have been for the nurse full-time, that's gonna go into there. And then that's gonna bring a total in the PRN line of 55,610. FICA is gonna remain 10,746.28. HERF will be 4,178 since we took that out. And then the insurance will remain at 13,750. $150 because of the other clerk benefits.
So Sandy,
So-
we want to take these one at a time here.
I have an amendment to the salary ordinance to pay the PRN nurse $22.33 per hour.
So if there's no question, I'll accept the motion to approve
Make a
that.
motion.
Okay, Doug made a motion, may I have a second?
I'll second.
Charmaine seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
And then I have a transfer of appropriations. We're gonna take $18,439.28. Let me break that down. Health insurance is $13,750, and perf, $4,689.28. And we're gonna move that into the nurse PRN, $13,750, and FICA, $4,689.28. It's all in personal services, but I like to let you guys know what's going on with wages, so.
And you have the breakdown of it, so I'll accept the motion to accept the transfer.
I'll make that motion.
Becky made the motion, may I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, sure. Sonia seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And that's, that should take care of it, Michelle. Thanks for coming in.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, have a good evening.
Running ahead here a little bit, Chelsea, if you're ready,
Yeah,
why don't we see if you would introduce yourself to the public?
my name is Chelsea Berger. I'm with Purdue Extension. I'm the County Extension Director as well as Health and Human Sciences Educator. And tonight, I'm here to just let you know what's going on. We missed the deadline to actually vote upon it, so I'll have to come back next week or next month and actually get a formal yes or no. But I did want to let you all know that our rent did increase by $230, and that was in the negotiations for monthly pest control. So we did get him to sign a contract, and we are getting pest control now, so they've already been out for this month's treatment, but that did cause our rent to go up a bit. That's $230 annually.
Is that, are you talking a month, a year, or what, what's that 230? What's the time?
Annual, yes.
So she's gonna need an additional appropriation of $230.
Yes.
And we missed the advertising deadline for tonight's meeting, so we'll have to do it in March. But I told her that she's already on, so she should come and, We'll get a consensus.
And let you all know that'll be coming down the line here in the next month or so and answer any questions you might have about that.
I guess,
Pest control's a good thing.
yeah, that's something I
Yeah.
think we're having trouble with.
Yeah,
that.
We were, so they treated for bugs as well as put out some light traps for mice, because we were seeing some signs of.
I guess I'm a little bit confused on this, the way I understood it from the commissioners meeting, the annual lease was $17,830.
Yes. What is not kind of listed in that overall thing is that $456 of that goes to our water tank rental because we don't have a water fountain out there, any potable water besides that water tank rental. So essentially what we did is it's all one pot of money, but in our mind, we took $230 to go towards the lease, and now we need to backfill that so we can have water. The total amount went up because the rent for the lease went up, but it doesn't reflect within that line item because it's all one item. If that makes, it's very confusing, but if that makes
In your
sense.
budget, you have $18,056.
Yes, so we need $18,286 for that line item now. It's broken down on my end, but it's not broken down in the total budget.
Okay.
So the commissioners were able to sign the lease because there was enough in that pot, but there will not be enough in that pot once we start drawing out of it.
Yeah, to finish up the year for your water.
Yes, yeah.
now the only thing I'm gonna ask is in the future, can they know the rent before the year when we do
Yes.
budget stuff? Is he
I have
gonna work
talked
with you?
to him about that, and I told him I'm gonna be bugging him in June. And he said, as long as I remember to do it, he will give us an amount. So he's not gonna come to me, I have to go to him,
I
but
think redoing this lease is a win-win.
it has been. The place is cleaner already.
Oh, good. And you actually have a lease?
We have a signed formal lease that has documentation of when they should come and clean, when they have to come and do our snow removal. I've got the contracted person's name, so I can call them if I'm not satisfied. I have that authority now, before we had to kind of go through Lee. We've gotten kind of an agreement through negotiations. He's gonna replace all the damaged ceiling tiles, he's gonna come and wash the walls, he's gonna shampoo the carpet. Just, he's gonna clean the place up. I'm really, really happy about it, yeah. It took some sweet talking, but we got there. Are there any other questions about why it's increasing? No? Okay.
It still, to me, it still seems a fair lease in a lot of ways.
Yeah. He was very accommodating to anything I asked for, so I was pretty happy with how it came out. And if it only costs $230 to get a place that's a little bit better to work in, I feel like that was a good deal.
So good. Okay, so you would just have
Consensus to advertise for the March meeting.
So all in favor of that? Raise your hand. Anyone opposed? So everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for
Enjoy
coming.
the rest of your evening.
It's hard to know how to schedule things. We run over all the time, so this time I gave more time.
This is great. Oh my
So,
Yes,
gosh.
I mean, Mary, if you're here, I mean, no mind, we'll just
Yeah.
go ahead.
You all have copies of the email or the task order, or would you like, I have some copies. If you all like that.
I'll take one. I just like to look at real paper.
So yes, I'm Mary Austin with Clark Beats. Discussing, this is listed as task order 1 under your on-call, because it's the first task order for 2022. The on-call automatically renews. All expenses allocated on the on-call have to be approved task orders. And so that's what I'm here to discuss. This would be the last bit of kind of administrative tasks to finalize the regional sewer district formation, to set up their bylaws, the ordinances, to make it a legal entity with IDEM. It's kind of the, I guess, conclusion of the study, in the sense that it takes it from a study to reality. In addition, this also includes us putting together the funding packages for 2 of the funding sources, primary funding sources that we see right now, which will be the SWIFT funds and the SRF fund package. And SRF fund package is due April 1st. So we kind of need to get moving on that one. But we've been talking with SRF for the last year, as far as them knowing where you all are on that.
Does SRF stand for? Help me.
The state revolving fund,
Okay,
it's through Indiana Finance Authority.
that's like a revolving loan fund type thing, or
Yes.
help me understand that better.
So it's through SRF, you can get just low interest loan money. You can get low interest loan teamed with grants, and you can get low interest loan teamed with grants and partial loan forgiveness. And generally, SRF is more likely to fund a higher dollar amount than SWIFT will. There's just more money in that pool of funds. So that's really the one we're really focusing on. Looking at the results of the study, but we basically have said that the only way that this is feasible or realistic is if we can get 50% of it funded through some type of grant or forgivable loan fund. the initial infrastructure.
So is there any funding like through the, like Indiana 15, the, block grants and different things like that for new construction like this?
There is some, you don't qualify for rural development, grants. The block grants are possible, they can only have so many open at a time. And the last time we talked about it, there were too many open in the county already. So I need to look back at that and see. But yes, we are looking at every option on funding and have been in contact with Leslie with Region 15 on that.
Yeah, I was hoping that Commissioner Costello would be here tonight.
He texted me as I was getting ready to leave, and he said he was planning on being here, and last minute he realized he double scheduled himself for something over his son, so.
And because I guess I'm a little bit, maybe I'm wrong here, but a couple of questions I had. Right now we had, to do this book, this study, I think the county got with the auditor, is that like $92,500?
Correct.
Cost us. And the question came up, Sandy, for you. When I spoke with Mary, she said that there was a $30,000 grant that should have offset that $92,500.
Wasn't that grant that you guys applied for?
So I'm just trying to look at the total cost where we're at here.
I didn't review it, I'm sorry.
But I mean, so we could only have 62.5 in it, roughly speaking, or, that's where it should be. So I guess what I'm
So
concerned
did
about.
we get the grant, or did the grant, see, I don't know, I'm gonna ask. I know we paid out your contract.
And then 30,000 of our invoices should have been sent back to SRF to get you all paid back,
So
reimbursed.
Did we have to send them in?
Mm-hmm,
I'll have to check on that, because I don't know about that.
okay.
Yeah, that's what she was telling me on the telephone. Yeah, that's why I thought we better be able to really check into that, because.
Yeah, if you haven't sent any of that in, let me know, and
Okay.
I can get with Camille. I'm sure it's not an issue because you all were granted that money.
Okay. Do I have any information on how to claim it, or?
Yeah, back when we first got it, I sent, you, Nick,
Okay.
and I guess Gray,
Okay, I'll look.
the agreements. And then also with SRF, if we get, one of the benefits of also going with SRF is they will include all design, construction, and inspection in their program, whereas a lot of the programs do not include any design. SRF will also, because we were in that early grant program for the study, the 62.5 and this additional here, anything you've done before getting the SRF loan that is tied to the planning process, you can also apply to get reimbursed for.
So that's, I guess this contract, and you had said it would be a fixed contract, $69,250.
Correct.
$69,250. So, I guess, I feel like we're behind the 8 ball here a little bit, because the commissioners seems like they should have approved this before, we approved the funding part. But then, it seems like the deadline here is gonna catch us if we don't.
So I think what Nick was suggesting when I met with him, we were talking about what dates I would come to what meetings. I think he was hoping that you all would approve it contingent the commissioners approving. You would allocate the funds contingent of commissioners approving it next week.
And that's one, being on the art committee, we have a designation here, which we're gonna go through the 9th, and, we were hoping to pay that out of ARPA money, which wouldn't affect, our edit funds or that kind of thing. So, I just want the council to understand that, moving forward here. I mean, I think the research I did, and I did speak with Region 15 and let her get involved in this a little bit, and Lisa, she thinks we're on the right path here. That this is the right agencies to be with. The concern, again, I have too many concerns, but you say the 50%, that's, this is it's going to be a minimum of $11 million. We may not have 50% of this money. And how are we going to come up with that? And I don't know if the RDF would take that in consideration. That's a high match, in some ways, in my opinion.
And I mean, all I can do is say that we have been communicating with them from the beginning of the study and throughout the study. Again, because we got the grant, I've been communicating with Camille throughout, and they're aware of the amount of funding you all will need for this project, and she's still thinking you're within the top 2 or 3 of the priority pool for the funding. So there's no guarantee, of course, until we get the application in. We have discussed doing a joint application with Jasper. For Jasper, the 11 million that's in the study for us to get Hayesville takes a force main from Hayesville directly to Jasper's plant. Whereas Jasper would like us to bring it into a pump station on the north side of their town where they're having the most growth. And team with us to build that pump station that would be on the north side of town as part of this project. In which case the funding would go up considerably. But that would also require Jasper to put in funds. So they had talked about putting in somewhere between 4 and 6 million when we originally talked about it. At that time, Nick was saying y'all were at 4 to 6 million from your ARP funds. I understand that some of that may have gone down since we originally talked about those dollar amounts. But at that time, that was the last conversation we had with SRF, was doing that joint application.
I just think the outline of this was, I think you had sent us an email, the development of the sewer ordinance, development of the bylaws of the sewer board, preparation and submittal of the IDAM petition for formation, and preparation and submittal of the funding application packages. I guess my thought is, and the same with Region 15 was, that maybe we should continue the momentum here and continue it, otherwise it's going to be dead in the water. Plus, we had talked about the federal funds that are out there possibly that the RDF and the ID, Indiana region, that they're going to get that and possibly control that money from the federal government. So if we're in there, that's a legitimate point that possibly we could, we could be first or second in line to get money. So, that's why I'm kind of leaning that we proceed with it or give that's my thoughts. Now I'd like to hear everyone else's, your thoughts. If we can get this $30,000 grant, that does help us, considerably on the original study, which I wasn't aware of.
Well, that would put the money back in the fund. I think it was CUME funds that paid them. It was either CUME or EDIT, so we'll put that back in that fund.
I think you had checked, or you had checked maybe with that. I thought we had taken it out of EDIT.
So it'll go back in the EDIT.
Well, and then you also said that the other 62,005 would be eligible for reimbursement if we're accepted into the SRF.
Correct.
So it would be like a
Plus this money right here.
plus this too.
So will you apply for that again then?
We'll,
On the
we
second?
will apply for SRF April 1st, is when that application goes in, yeah. The application period is open pretty much all of April. Camille recommended we get it in the first week. so that we're on the top of the mountain.
You're ready to do that.
We kind of started on it already, so.
So if I'm, unless I'm getting too far ahead, so when somebody wants to jump onto the sewer, then is there a charge for them? What kind of dollar amount are they gonna be, people in Hayesville referring to? What kind of dollar amount do they have to be to get it sewer?
That will depend on how the funding works, how much we get in funding. If we get enough in funding, they would not have an initial hook on fee, the initial group. Now, once you are hooked, once the infrastructure is built, if they didn't hook on initially, there would be a tap fee. The reason in doing that is if we get enough funds to do it that way, it encourages people who are on the fence to go ahead and hook on now, instead of waiting, because now they can hook on for free. And so, of course, the more users we get initially, the lower, or the more income you have coming in for it. So the lower concern that debt service is.
The Hayesville meeting, it seemed people were, I thought it went well. And
Yeah, I was really surprised at how positive everybody really was. And we really didn't have any negative comments. Like we had said in the beginning, is if you have a functioning permanent septic system, you wouldn't be required to hook on now. But again, if somebody's looking at doing a renovation, or if they know that their septic system's on the last leg, and then they know they can tap on for free right now, then they would be more likely to do that.
How many people do you think that, that we're talking about that can tap on for free? I mean, that's hypothetical, I know, but where, is there a number that's out there?
No,
Okay.
not yet. The preliminary engineering design phase will nail that down.
Okay.
Is there any contingency for the treatment capacity of the two places that'll treat the wastewater? Because I mean, it could change their treatment permit. They could have to do plant upgrades to treat that much more volume if you get a lot of people going on. I mean, is that all in there? I haven't read through everything.
Yeah, so we have to first establish the legal entity, and then once that's established, they'll do interlocal agreements between Jasper Treatment Plant and the Regional Sewer District to pay for the treatment of Hayesville. And that's where we start out at. But right now, Jasper's saying they have the capacity. What they're wanting is that 6-plex pump station on the north end of town as their kind of upgrade. And so we believe that's why we're looking at doing a joint loan, is to help them get the funding for that. And similarly, when we get to an area, if we were coming to Huntingburg or whatever treatment plant we were coming to, at the time that we get to the preliminary engineering stage of that area of the county, we would start having discussions about what the capacity is. And if we need more capacity, similarly, we do a joint application to increase the treatment plant's capacity at the same time we're building the infrastructure, and put those in so that the treatment plant's getting funding as well.
Is there a way we can get maybe I missed it, is there a way we can get a timeline of what's coming up and maybe what needs to be done? I guess, I'm speaking for myself, I'm trying to, if I can see where it's at, and, if our end goal is a certain year and maybe we have to pay a certain dollar amount at a certain time, that kind of helps me out. And unless that's in here and I missed it.
Yeah, the IDM process, the petition process is about 6 months to be completed. From the time we submit it to the time it goes through all of the different briefs and all of that. So I would say this contract in total is a 9 to 12 month. By the end of this year, we should be, and that way, at that point, you'll know from SRF if you're getting your funding as well. And so we would go straight basically from this into preliminary engineering for the Hayesville infrastructure.
So does a decision have to be made if we're gonna get with Jasper City and do the pump station at the north side of town? Is that you have to have that a certain time frame before everything would get approved, or?
Well, I mean, I guess I was under the impression that we were there. So, I mean, the commissioners, what we talked about with the commissioners is, doing both applications so that we have it covered either way. Do an application that's joint with Jasper, and we'll do an application with just you guys. So that we're covered on both ends of it.
Are you spearhead that?
No, I think Jasper, you know, the meetings that I went to, I didn't go to Hayesville, it was the same one as this
Yeah.
room. You know, Jasper's been involved, I mean, they've been in the meetings now. You know, they have, like you say, they have the capacity, and my understanding is, and like you just said. So I think.
We already did a joint application with Jasper, in June for one of the art fund programs that we felt we probably weren't gonna get because we were still too early in our process. But we went ahead and put it in, and Jasper joined in on the application. So we've already submitted one joint application.
I just feel, I don't think we have, you know, if this is all, the submission has to be April 1st or whatever, you know, we don't have time to wait till the 28th of March for our next meeting to do this. That's why I think we almost have to give a, you know, one way or the other here, so we know how to move forward, the commissioners do.
So would we just
Well, if
approve it?
we're gonna use ARPA funds, that's under the commissioner's control.
Yeah, so we wouldn't even need to appropriate.
No, I don't, that was my thinking too, and I should have asked Nick, you know, what his thoughts were there, but I thought during our ARPA meetings that's what, you know, that's why we're setting aside this money. You know, looking at you, because you're part of.
Right, you're part of it, yes.
And, you know, I mean, the sheriff is part of it too, so, I mean, this is logical that it would come out of the ARPA funds. So, I don't know then what, you know, I guess that's really what we.
No, the only
need to
thing
do.
that I wanna make sure of, if we use ARPA money, are we allowed to have SRF reimburse us? Because that's a grant on a grant, and normally you don't do that.
It's a good point. Yeah, you won't.
Because you can't
Because you
supplant
can't
the
use
grant.
federal funds twice, yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, if you use ARPA money for this contract, you will not be able to reimburse this contract.
So, that may present another little issue when we get into it, that we may want to transfer that to the county general. funds.
Well, either that or, yeah, I mean,
Can we appropriate out of lit, and then when it becomes reimbursed, then it'll just come right back.
it'll,
Backfill it. Because with ARPA, if we use it out of there, we're not getting it back.
Correct.
Is that gonna cause, I guess in the big picture of things, is that gonna cause us issues using ARPA money? You know, we won't be able to map.
that would just leave you more money when we need it in the 11 mil or whatever million.
Yeah, I mean, they are aware that both you and Jasper, the match money is coming from ARPA funds. I think the issue is you using that as your match versus asking to be reimbursed for a grant that you used to pay. You see what the difference is there? So that's where I think the issue would come in, if you were wanting to get reimbursed for this contract after paying with ARPA funds, as opposed to using ARPA funds as your match.
Which is allowed.
Yes.
That is allowed.
It's just if they're gonna apply and we get this SRF money, it needs to be one of our own funds.
Mhm.
And we need to appropriate that then at the next meeting.
We have to, in the application, we have to give them an estimate of what you plan to match, depending on how much money you get. And then they'll come back to us and say, this is how much money we're willing to give you, maybe less than what we originally asked for. And at that time is when we have to finalize exactly how much is available. Now, we want to be pretty close on our estimate to, you know, be in good faith, but you're not obligated to that amount at the time we put it in.
So moving forward, if we don't have to have it appropriated tonight or request appropriation.
Well, we would if we do it out of lit. We would have to,
I would think you'd want to appropriate it before we can,
I mean, for this contract amount, not
I
the,
mean, what's your thoughts of this? Just-
yeah, we're talking about her contract amount.
I almost feel like it's for grant.
That would get us more grant money if we do it out of lit. Conceivably, because.
it'll be net zero then it.
Right, because they're gonna, they pay us back anyway, so it's not like we're,
Now,
you know,
if they apply and we don't get it,
will apply.
I mean, that's the thing. If we appropriate a lit, they apply, we don't get it, then we're not gonna be reimbursed.
But like you're saying, Mary, you'll just reapply. Change the numbers and reapply.
For this, your next phase costs.
Correct.
I'm more in favor of appropriating out of lit so that we can maximize the grant dollars for the match.
I mean,
And they know it's a cost reimbursement, right? I mean, we just don't want them to say, oh, you already appropriated, now we don't want to match.
Yeah, no.
so I guess my only question here is why wouldn't we move some of this other money into county general and pay it out of county general, the ARP money? And then it's not really our money anymore, it's being paid out of county general.
They'll just get county general expense.
It's,
I mean, Greg's working on that transfer stuff, but we're not ready yet.
okay. But I mean, what do you see as the negative there?
You're using general money.
But I mean, but it's really ARP.
Well, it's really general money once it
When it's in
moves.
general, it's general.
Once it's general money, it's general
Doesn't
money.
matter where it came from, I guess.
It's just our putting money in that fund.
But it would still be eligible for the grant.
Yeah, it's general fund money
We
then.
pay it, which we're gonna cover this later here today. That's why I didn't know if we had to make the motion right now. You know, and we can do it later tonight, if we decide to change our mind or. I mean, I'm not convinced that it, you know, that it should come out added, but because, you know, we set this ARPA money aside for the sewer and we've got, you know, whatever it is here, but you know, it's 3.5 million. You know, I guess my hope is to try to use it, even start using it. But I don't know if you know, I think we could discuss this later, I think after we get into it here. You see what I'm, you know, because it's.
I thought, my impression of it was that exactly what ARPA was used for, and that's what county general was used for, is to take ARPA money, move it into county general, so that you can do some of the things that ARPA says you can't,
Right.
so to speak.
And the commissioners, you know, it's really commissioners move,
Mhm.
and they could do that, if they're meeting in March. So let's just discuss it later here, so when we can get through this. Good. I think, any other questions for Mary, as far as the sewer district? I know there's a lot of interest. I've had a call that somebody like to sit on the regional board, you know, which is pretty good.
Yeah, that's great.
It's great to have someone.
You know, and he seems qualified.
When will that take place? When will they be ready for that type of progress?
As soon as item makes it a legal entity, it'll be time to do that. And there aren't any elections, the board is all appointments. So the council gets to appoint one from each of 2 school districts. And that's supposed to be people that live outside one of the existing sewer districts. So that they would be potentially a regional sewer district customer. And then the commissioners get to appoint one from each of the other 2. And then there's 2 commissioners and 2 councilmen Those are the voting members, and a representative from the health department would be the other voting member. And then you've got the county engineer is a non-voting member, it is advisor, and a spot for each of the treatment plants that we currently would have an interlocal agreement with, for them to sit on the board as an advisor.
Added it, the previous one that we had here.
Okay.
Because I wrote it in.
Would you like me to stay for the ARPA discussion, or?
I don't think it's necessary. We'll get it. I think
Figure out
the consensus is we'll figure it out. We'll get it.
Great, all
And
right.
you said your fee is $69,250. Is that what I wrote down?
You don't have a problem,
That's
yes?
I have the email, I didn't write it along.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, 69,250.
Okay, I just wanna make sure. I got
Yeah, I leave that with you.
All right, thank you all.
Mary.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mary.
You're almost, you're still early.
We're still at check text, and I was like, hey, we're gonna be really early, and I was like, well,
Oh, I didn't realize he did that, sorry. I did it
Well,
too.
that's all right.
Share, are you ready?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
Yeah, why don't you introduce yourself and for the public?
Sheriff Tom Kleinholder, here to, I'll give you a handout here. Give you what?
Sheriff, happy birthday. I missed your birthday the other day. Yesterday or?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, sorry.
Stay here.
We don't celebrate.
Is there?
Well, it doesn't happen on Facebook, so I have to go back and post another picture.
Last week I went to the county commissioners, and I know I had a discussion with Mike about this. So I went ahead and just asked for what we had planned to do this year as far as vehicle rotation. And if you can see it on the top line, it's getting rid of a 2013 Ford Taurus, a 2016 Ford Explorer, and then a 2016 Ford F-150 pickup truck. I'm here tonight just to ask for the F-150. On the second page is a identical vehicle to what he's driving, but it's newer. It's a 2019 versus what he is driving, a 2016. Like I explained to them, we're getting a vehicle that's got 26,000 miles on it. We're giving up a vehicle that's got right around 115,000 miles on it. We've driven it for 4 years. For a total of like $3,000 because we paid $23,000 for it. So when it came available, it looked like a very good deal that we're getting a vehicle that would probably go to it is going to go to our narcotics officer. He's had very good luck with that vehicle. And that's why we kind of moved a little bit ahead of where we are. So they are asking $23,000 for the trade-in vehicle for our vehicle, and then we would have to pay $23,000 for this new vehicle. And then I talked to Ryan Yoder at Harmonic Electronics. He believes that he can take everything out of the vehicle that we're going to trade in and put it into the new truck for around $1,500. So I'm looking for around 24.5 in that area for that one vehicle. And I do not have anything on the two new cars yet, so I'm not asking for anything on that yet. I just went to the commissioners just to get a preliminary approval from them to move forward with them sometime this year. But we have done nothing on them yet.
So the ask is for that new vehicle, and trade that vehicle is $24,500.
Give or take, I don't know. I mean, obviously it's a set price for the vehicle, 23. And I don't know how we want to do that. Like when Harmonic gets in there and he gave me a text quote of 1,500. I don't think he can hold me to that without ever seeing it or even getting a hold of the vehicle and finding out how much it's going to cost. Or, once he takes a inverter out of the truck, is it good? Does he have to replace it? So that is a question I don't have the answer for of how we want to do that as far as when it comes to, I can get you the price of the vehicle, it's just the intangibles that I don't know how to get a set price on that to come here.
That aside, any questions for Tom?
I like it, I think a used vehicle is low miles is a good move, if you can do it.
For this vehicle, yeah, I mean, it's a good truck, it's dependable, and that's what we're needing for his job.
And it's built.
Any other questions?
Well, I guess my question is, are you asking for an appropriation for the 3 vehicles at one time, or are you just gonna do one at a time?
I'm just gonna do this one because it came up so quickly, so
Okay.
I'm here to do just the truck now, and then we'll work on the quotes for the other 2 Durangos whenever we can get them. But I'm not ready to move forward on that just quite yet.
So it hasn't been advertised or anything except a consensus step.
Any questions on what's, have a show of hands for,
So does the owner just put the equipment in and does he letter it up too, or does that?
Yes, but he won't on this one, not on this truck.
It's unmarked?
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
so how do you feel about, should we round that up to 2,000 then? Are how are you gonna cover you're gonna have to come back in here and get him paid, or are you gonna pay that out of some other fund?
Well, I mean, that was a question I guess I had for you. Because it typically would have gotten paid out of the new vehicle,
Right.
and we just don't know how much those are.
I guess I'll ask you, what kind of more contingency do you want in there? I guess we better.
I guess where I would go at is if we don't use it, it goes right back to the general, right?
No, it just stays in that fund.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we go with, since he said 1,500, I mean, we could go 2,000. If I have to ask for more, we just have to ask for more. If we have 500 left, it just stays in there until
Your next vehicle.
the next vehicle, right? So,
And I'm assuming that'd be Kim Cat, so.
Okay, so is this, see a show of hands for this trade of $25,000. Okay, so you got a consensus. Thanks.
Sure.
And then later on, like you said, you will come in with a state quote.
Right,
from the state
yeah.
on any other new vehicle
Yeah.
that you would.
and probably, I mean, again, it's hard to really know what we're gonna do. So what I will probably do is go to where we had gotten the last ones, is John Jones, and then getting him to give me a quote of doing the whole thing. And that kind of gives me an idea of where we're gonna be at. And then if we decide to go with Harmonic, I know it's gonna be cheaper than him, or at least we have a set price. That's kind of in my head of what we wanna do is just get a fully done car, and that's the quote. But then yet, when we're trading 2 in, we'll know that we can use some of that equipment. So anything is gonna be cheaper than what that quote is. Does that make sense?
Sure.
That's how I kind of wanted to do it. So I have a starting point. If I know that it's gonna cost 2 fully brand new, marked, fully ready to go vehicles, it might cost $65,000, but yet when we trade them 2 in, he's gonna be able to utilize some lights and siren and that type of stuff. So it would be less than that, but at least we have a starting point. I don't know if that's the right way to do it or not, but that's the way, unless you got better ideas.
No, I think
It's simple.
makes sense to me. So that's, so thanks, I guess.
Okay.
I mean, they're gonna be able to hold this long until we can.
Well, because they're very good to work with on trade-ins, because they know that they'll give us that vehicle, and then then Ryan has to make time to get the stuff out of it, to get it back to give it to them.
Yes.
It can't just be done in a day, so, we did tell them last week that we had the approval and that we had to come tonight, so.
Okay.
They'll be expecting some type of an answer tomorrow, but locally, they're good people to work with, and they know
that it's not as simple. Here's a trade, we'll do it tomorrow.
And you're welcome, we're gonna have it looks like our discussions next, and you're welcome to stay if you want to, you sat on the committee with us.
Yeah, I can stick around a little bit.
Yes, if there is I mean, it'd be nice if you would, or appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, guys.
So, you know, I think Cindy given us this copy of the, you know, breakdown, you know, like we had quite a few different meetings, and I think the last one was, I guess we could go Friday or so, and Sandy, you sit on it also. So, you know, initially, we were given the $8,309,967. And we went into this with it, on the top of this sheet here, we went into what the priorities were originally, and that was, it had to be spent on broadband, I think, and any kind of infrastructure, underground infrastructure. And then there was a list of other things. Anyway, we prioritized it as a committee, and it was a Du Bois, you know, we came up with Du Bois Rural Broadband, the sewer districts, the fire department up at Du Bois with the ambulance. They have a store ambulance, and Patoka Water, St. Anthony Water, county internet and tech support infrastructure, and the health grant. So we had a lot of reiterations of this, and then in November they passed a law, or I guess they gave us
Interim rule and the final rule.
yeah, interim rule of how we could spend this. And originally we could not use any of our revenue loss because we never really technically had revenue loss because of the CR tax that we had put in place. So we couldn't really do anything with revenue loss, but really I guess that was one of our priorities when we first started. So, but that didn't show up on here, but that was one, and if we couldn't use it, we thought, well, these would be our priorities. So anyway, we came up with, after a lot of meetings here, we came up with what we thought we could do. And we were trying to get more money in the revenue loss, and I think Sandy went to Baker Tilly and asked, could we, if we transfer some of this money into revenue loss now, we could take the whole amount, the 8 million, and put it in revenue loss, but we've already committed, or we felt we were committed to a lot of these, these listed items.
The final rule changed things so that anything under 10 million was kind of at our discretion.
Right. That's good.
So,
They changed it, which goes into effect April 1st, but if you're in the process, they won't take an exception.
So any county or any entity that had less than 10 million or less could move it all into revenue loss. So anyway, we went through this, and this the first one on here is that Boca grant, sewer hotspots. That was a grant, and that's going to be spent out of this $31,600. We set aside $20,000 for professional services, basically Baker Tilly and whatever else we need. The revenue loss came up to $448,077, and that would be moved in lump sum. And again, our understanding is that has to be moved at one time, right?
You have to do one revenue loss lump sum.
Yep. So that's what we came up with. The government audit, we set aside $25,000. The treasure window, we paid out already to Universal Design, and they are going to rebid it this fall. That's paid out $16,800. The auditor treasurer's window, the actual construction, we will get a bid for that, but that's part of the moving into the lost revenue category, but we would earmark it or know we're gonna pay that out of county general. The park, $350,000, we were gonna move that into county general. And the REC broadband, we set aside $2,500,000, that's a guaranteed.
That's already under contract,
It's
so.
guaranteed max, so we can't exceed that. The health grant, that was, $2,490,200. And then the St. Anthony water was 181,000. That's the tank at the, basically right by the 4-H grounds area. The Northeast DuBois Fire District is 300,000. And that again, these are all being moved to county general. And then we have the Toka Lake Water and Sewer, the DuBois Sewer Project. I'm sorry, backing up. The sludge drying beds was 100,000. And then the actual DuBois Sewer Project was 100,000. So they're actually 200,000. And then the regional sewer district is 1,655,000. So
can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Help me understand why we would move the ones that are earmarked to county general. What's the benefit of moving them?
it's basically, some of these still, we feel new construction does not qualify for number one.
You can't do new construction, so that,
Like the fire district.
Okay.
the fire district, you can't use ARPA funds for that. So if you move it, then we have to appropriate in county general and it
So
would
how does
just
that
be.
work? I mean, just,
Because it's coming in as revenue into county general. Done. Then you don't look at it as being ARPA money anymore because it's in county general. So then we're just gonna do an additional, knowing we have that money. Right,
gotta make that shift in my brain.
right.
Okay. We have received some of this money,
Half.
half of it.
We
When
cannot
you
claim
get
the
the-
next half until May. It had to be 12 months from the previous installment.
So here's a follow-up question then, about the county sewer district. How's that not considered new construction?
Well, it's infrastructure.
So
Okay.
So that's part of, that was one of the things they laid out is you can do infrastructure.
it's same with Patoka and same with St. Anthony.
Okay.
So it's really, it's infrastructure.
It's just a new build from the ground up, like this fire station, that is not allowed to be used for ARPA.
Well, I want to make sure we're clear on the fire. We're not building a fire station. The DuBois is building a fire station, and they are putting in living quarters that houses the county ambulance.
Correct.
So we are paying that portion of the county's part, which is they narrowed it out, so it's $300,000 to build a portion to house the county ambulance. So that there's no confusion that we're giving DuBois Fire money to build a firehouse. That's
It's
not what
to,
we're doing.
yes, it's to house the ambulance barn,
Yeah.
ambulance.
It's
Just
our
like-
ambulance.
Just like we did in Huntington.
But I want to make sure, because other people could be, say, yeah, and I don't want that to happen, so this is
Okay.
trying to clear it up.
But it's still a new build from the ground up, so that's why it can't be
Thank you for explaining that.
considered for ARPA.
Can you touch on, we have not paid them anything to store that ambulance for?
Yeah, so it's been there for 25 years that they've allowed. And have you ever been up there in their living quarters in DuBois? It's tough. It's tough, if anybody's been there. And, so they actually need more room, which we did ours 12 years ago. Trucks are getting larger, buildings need to be bigger, and that's doable. Our Bird's Eye just did a new firehouse as well. So they're in the need of a new building too. So they actually did all the preliminary work ahead of time, so it didn't cost us anything to, we didn't pay for any drawings, like that. They did all that on their end, so, and they didn't charge us anything for utilities or nothing up until recently. So we've, I guess, in our eyes as a group, we felt like, well, 300,000 was a fair ask for our portion.
Other questions?
So the total amount that we would transfer as revenue loss, that 1.2 million down the bottom.
Okay, got it. That makes sense
And then we'll come back and do additional appropriations
for each of them.
for these items in the commissioner budget.
Okay, for 2023.
No, for actually,
Oh, just, okay, gotcha.
You can't earmark.
well, then it'll be an appropriation in county general.
So it'll be in the commissioner's
It'll
budget.
be in the commissioner's budget.
That's where it's landing as well. Right, I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around it.
So the only, I thought, right now, we have parked the 350,000. I just want to make sure we all understand this.
That needs to be another discussion here, because if you all wanna take this 350,000 and appropriate it in the commissioner's budget for the park, we can do that, or we can leave it where we're already with the lit funds. Because we have it appropriated in both. Or,
Well, what I think the discussion was is that we preferred to use ARPA money and leave lit alone.
That's why we made the motion.
Okay, so that's, I mean, if we're gonna move it as revenue loss and spend it out of county general, I still would,
Prefer that.
that's my
That's kind
preference.
of the way I agree with that.
which that, I mean, we wanted to let it be out there for you to know this kind of change happened.
So, we guess he
So
said,
not really, they're marking it for, the park. Like we're saying we want to put this towards the park that we not already doing.
Well,
we
when it was in ARPA, but we weren't sure if we were allowed to use it for ARPA funds, so that's when we're gonna move it to county general, and then you're gonna reappropriate it in the commissioner's budget for the park.
So she's saying that it's appropriated twice, which one do we wanna actually
Right.
pay the claim?
It's
for?
already in lit, and they broke ground, so it's already, the project has started. But we know that we have it in the one, now you wanna put it in the other.
I wanna use the ARPA money.
Well, it won't be considered ARPA
Right,
anymore.
It's just, it would save us edit funds.
You're right, I would like that to happen, if it is up to me.
Does anyone, Alex or Doug, Sonia, would you have any else? Anyone comment on that? I think that's,
I mean, that's what we discussed, and it makes sense to do that. I don't know why we would change our minds.
Especially now that we're able to use it, we found a way to be able
Well,
to use those funds.
I just wanted you to, because now we do have more money to go into county general to help county general out. Because we've been moving things out of county general at budget time. That's why I just wanted you to have that knowledge.
so another point here, we do have the county, Sheriff, the county attorney, he's writing an agreement here that they have to spend that money on that project. Like if it's Du Bois, so they have to put that toward that sludge drying beds. So we, as the county, helped that many people, same with St. Anthony and Water. So we know how many customers we helped, that we can designate that, or,
Just kind of as almost like an obligatory thing to justify the use of those grant funds, is that?
some of it and the public impression of it. That we want them to know that we helped pay that restoration of that water tower.
Can help us, or took us, or ready to go.
Now, we do have a report due at the end of March. So I'll be working on that in March to get that up for the ARPA.
So, can we talk about the Clark deeds?
Yeah, that's what that's
That's
what I'm wanting to talk about, So you want to make comments first?
Well, I guess what my thought is it sounds to me like you don't want to spend it out of the county general revenue loss money that's going over, because then we would be dipping into something else. Is that right? Am I following?
What would we be dipping into?
Well, it sounded to me like you wanted to just pay it out of ARPA.
And then if it's
You
not,
cannot do it out of ARPA because that's federal money and you can't reimburse federal money
Right,
with
no, I
federal
get that.
grant. So that's,
Right. So, but it almost sounded to me like you still wanted to pay it out of ARPA.
well, what I was wanting to do here before we make this one transfer is to put another 62.5 in the county general
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
as
suggest.
lost revenue, and then pay it out of county general.
Yeah.
And that would, we could then be reimbursed for it because it's not really ARPA funds.
Yeah, okay, so that's what I was gonna suggest. Well, if the hangup is if wanting to come out of this 1.655 million, well, let's just reduce that number in ARPA by 69.2 and then add it to the transfer to county general.
I mean, my only problem here is the commissioners approved that as it is here. So we got an issue there. Could we, somehow we have to force them now to change this, by that amount.
Well,
Just don't
we still have the 48,000 up here that we can,
I mean, to me, it's.
So it's just money, it doesn't matter if it's dedicated for a certain dollar amount. So a certain dollar amount is dedicated.
well, it's revenue loss, so
Yeah,
revenue loss,
so-
and if you guys appropriate in county general, it's.
Right.
Once they take it out of the ARPA fund and put it in county general, it's under your control of how you spend it.
So if we take the 62 out of the 448, then we would get reimbursed and would be basically
It would just be in that-
448.
You would,
Right.
Because I think I like that idea better because then it still leaves $70,000 for the match. In the ARPA fund, it leaves that amount whole for the match in that SRF
because
application.
that is Nick's big concern is we're not gonna have enough money when it comes down to funding
To match it.
the sewer district.
I'm almost in favor of leaving the plan as is here. Because it sounds like it's almost a guarantee that we're gonna qualify for the SRF funds. And they will be reimbursed if we don't use ARPA. So it's just gonna be a wash, no matter.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I'm in agreement with that, I just didn't really know, I just didn't really want to use edit funds.
Yeah,
Because they're getting, we're getting kind of,
that's fine.
but if we would pay it out of county general, then we would have to do it. I'm just thinking we can't, if we're gonna come up short in the sewer, regional sewer district, then, it's kind of a moot point then.
Yeah, the only reason I brought up the lit is just, I didn't realize, since we hadn't had this discussion yet, that all this was gonna be flooding into general.
Anything else? I mean, that's fine, we don't have to do anything with this is approved, and we would just, tonight, we would just have, I guess, a consensus on paying the 62.5, since what it is,
It's 69.
69,
69,
250, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, 69,250,
Out of county general.
that's what I'm thinking.
Because I really want to make sure that we're able to apply for a reimbursement on that.
Make sense. You have any comments?
Handled beautifully.
Now, next month then Greg's gonna work on that resolution to move the money, and then I'll start advertising so we have it in place. So we can start paying them out.
So we just need a consensus then to advertise? How would we handle that?
I would do a consensus.
So we would then have a consensus on to move forward with this this next plan for 69,250 out of county general. So all in favor? Say aye or aye. Looks like it. Unanimous. Because we moved the white stallion thing to the end, didn't we?
Right, I moved that.
Okay,
Greg is not available till 6:30, so I put him at the end, so,
so.
we'll do the additional appropriations. I think the highway was here last time talking about the 16,500. It's for they have a program with Malcon that we get reimbursed for our fuel taxes every quarter, but we have to pay the bill. I mean, oh, here's Greg. They capture the money on the fuel tax, we get the money, then we have to give them half, up to $3,000. So this is an appropriation, so we can pay that, sir, for that, as we get them back.
And is that 16,000?
That's $16,500. He's kind of an estimating, so if they don't use it, they won't use it. It's the maximum that we could get back and have to pay them each time.
So is there any questions or discussion? You want to motion to approve that appropriation?
I'll make a motion.
Doug is, need a motion to accept it. Second.
I will.
Sonia seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
That's just trying to leave.
I'm on the clock tonight.
You're on the clock.
I
Yeah.
got some feet.
Okay, Veteran Services Support Fund.
I'm sorry.
Veteran Services Support Fund is the new fund that you guys set up from the Community Foundation. He needs some computer equipment, so we'd like to take that out of that fund, $3,000.
I move that we approve $3,000.
We made a motion. Doug seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I just can't write as fast as you guys talk.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
The next additional appropriation is the Jasper Downtown Revitalization, $250,000, as you guys agreed last time. We're gonna do the 1 year this time, and then we'll appropriate the other $250,000 next year's budget.
On that, the comment I want to make, the bid opening was Monday, and they did get 3 bids, so I think this is contingent on they signing a contract, including the money, before we give them the money. So I'll look for a motion to approve that. I guess it's only 250,000 now, right?
For this year,
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Greg made a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Every second, and all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I was gonna say, I felt asleep last night, so I mean, it's.
okay, St. Charles Street Maintenance, we receive rent every month from the WIC department, the WIC program, I should say. Scott uses that money for maintenance on the St. Charles Street Annex, that we do not budget that annually, so he's requesting $5,000 from that fund.
Okay. Change things up, I'll make a motion to approve the $5,000 repair maintenance.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
You'll see the sheet that I did for the annual report, looks like this, that's what we're gonna advertise in the paper. It should be in, I think, on Wednesday, maybe possibly. The full complete report is here, if you're interested in seeing it.
That's the whole range right there.
It,
If you're ready to surrender it for a couple days.
You can take it if you like it. It's my only copy, so if the auditors walk in, you know you have to bring it back. But,
Understood.
it has been submitted, it's due tomorrow, so.
Good job, you did it.
Just-
High five across the room.
But you have a copy of what's in the paper, so you can see the beginning and ending balances of each fund.
You don't have to pay anything with that.
You don't, I just give it to you for informational purposes, so you can see what's in the funds and how much went in and out. And
Okay.
like I said, if you wanna see the whole thing, I got it.
I just read this sort of study and I just read the handbook, so that's enough for me.
You're done for a while.
Yeah, that's enough.
This is so much more exciting.
Okay.
It would be more exciting if there was more detail, but we don't need any more.
I do really like working on it though, because it's got down to the penny and it's.
Well, you're right.
Well, is this something in our record a month ago?
Yes, they wanted to nitpick to me.
Yeah, got it.
I mean, I got my notes, and if you want to take one, I have that side. Okay, so is, I guess the next, since Greg's here, I guess we
Yep.
go in with the, so if you would,
Not the best topic, but more than happy to.
come up and introduce
And
yourself.
Steve, I already did yours.
Steve's here for this
here
also.
for,
Oh,
in case you want to know.
Not all Steve's fault, but he's been,
Yeah.
it's very involved.
I could have let you do yours.
I've been asked to kind of come in and give an update or maybe just a synopsis of what we refer to as the Whitestone bankruptcy case. For those of you who are or aren't familiar, there's a mine on the west side of the county called the Shamrock Mine. It takes up a fair amount of acreage and a number of county roads. I'm not sure how long that's been going on for. Steve, you probably know.
Probably about 2003, 2004.
Okay, so 18 to 20 years we're going on here. And during the course of that, we entered into a number of road use agreements for them to use our existing county roads because of the extra traffic and haul routes, things of that nature. Late 2020, which I guess was a great year across the board for lots of things, that outfit and all of their subsidiaries and affiliates, they filed bankruptcy. That obviously had a direct impact on the mine, its workers, and everyone else, that a whole lot of folks. So in the course of that, because we had a decent amount invested, or could have a decent amount invested, the commissioners recommended that we seek outside counsel to handle bankruptcies. Maybe sure that Mr. Cleaster, my knowledge of bankruptcies is about like that. And we did enlist the services of Denton's, who has a local office here, but they were out of Louisville. When we got them involved, gave them a cap of what we could afford, not to exceed amount for the 2021 calendar year. They honored that. We got invoiced on that, I believe, in January, and they kept it at that and wrote off any excess charges that they could have had. The bankruptcy itself is not done at this point. Towards the end of 2021 and the beginning part in January of this year, we filed amended claims to make sure, do the best we could to protect our interests, some of which are the bonds that we had to put in place for all those road use agreements. Additionally, Steve put pencil to paper and worked hard and came up with an estimate, good faith estimate of what it would take to put those roads back into good condition. One of the roads may or may not be able to get got mined through, but also what sort of remedial or proactive steps we could take to make sure we don't lose another road out there. And those claims were filed in the bankruptcy case because it was our understanding they were not going to, the proposed purchaser was not purchasing our existing agreements or contracts. So that's why we didn't file these amended claims beginning part of the year, as well as reaffirmed the county treasurer's claims that they had for unpaid taxes. Which kind of leads us to right now where we're at in the process. There's obviously they're doing it, in my estimation, again, I told you about my bankruptcy knowledge, so I feel like they're representing us, they're doing a good job. But I don't know that we have a finish line in sight. The next steps are to see if we can, there's a stay order in place, bankruptcy court put into place that prevents us from pursuing basically on our contracts. We are going to be filing a request to get relief from that stay so that we can ideally at least go and get our contract, our bonds, to then provide those to the highway department to make good on those road use agreements. And then I don't know if it will cover everything or not, time will tell. But we would still have those amended claims that we filed at the beginning part of the year. It's kind of my Cliff Notes version. We're not done, we're close. There's a lot that's involved. We had a lot of road use agreements, and our outside counsel is working on trying to protect those bonds so that we can get them back. And there may be other questions I may have answers for. How much more you think we'll have in attorney fees? I assume that might be one of those questions. So I did reach out to our attorney on that, asked that exact question. Give me a timeline, give me a finish line if you've got one, and what is it going to cost roughly? That cost is anywhere from $10,000 on the easy end to $20,000 on a difficult end. What could make it difficult again is, so if we seek this relief from the stay, if the debtor objects, then it's a contested matter at that point. If the debtor does not object and they're in agreement with it, my understanding is that's obviously, whether it's this or any case, anytime you have an agreement, it's a lot easier and it's a lot cheaper. So that would be more on the lower end of the $10,000 range.
So what are the chances that ever gets filled in? I mean, everybody's been by there, it's a 200-foot hole filled with water.
I spoke with the head DNR fella, met him out there several times already. He estimated probably 500,000 cubic yards, and there's not enough material on site to fill that hole. So someplace along the line, there is going to be a lake. I don't know how they're going to go about, like 750 West still has the mine through it. In order to fill that hole, if they began filling on the west side and, filling towards the east to get it away, I don't know how much of that is actually going to stay put, because that lake could be 100 foot deep by the time they're done. So is that all, it's not virgin soil that's going to slide in. Does that go back into 750? If we can't get the water far enough away, that's a real likelihood to happen. So I think part of that remediation was if it's not possible to save 750, we were going to mitigate to protect Portersville West as the slough was even moving towards that road. Everybody that has land around that area on 750 can get to their lane without having to go through. So that would just be a terminated road. But then if we would use that money to protect Portersville West, because that's a more important road, and be sure that we don't lose him. So I don't know when, it's probably after the dust settles with this bankruptcy thing.
Correct.
That the state will hire someone to do the reclamation. And there's a pretty sizable fund in the state. Every ton of coal that comes out of that mine, they had to put money towards like abandoned mine, that type of thing. So there's reclamation there in case of default from the mine company. So there's money there to do it, but he doesn't feel it's enough to do everything that needs to be done here. So thankfully we have our road usage funds to help at least within our right-of-way portion of the road and get that put back. So I think the estimate was probably around 300,000 on 700, which is pretty much in place. There's some drainage that has to get taken care of. The existing road right now, 65 foot wide for 2 utes to pass. We don't need it that wide. There's going to be new ditches cut in and then rework the road and then gravel it, and it's ready to go back together again. But the 750 is that's the really questionable thing. So I think another thing that I put in on 700 is that since 750 was paved all the way through with chip and seal, that 700, instead of putting that back as gravel, that ought to be chip and sealed to replace, so we have a nice north-south thoroughfare. It's a paved road instead of a gravel. So stuff like that is what we added in there. But yeah, I think once they get in there, there's certain things that they could do to get that brought back up, and we would have our money.
Hopefully we can reap some of those benefits as well, as the landowners.
And I have been getting calls from a lot of landowners too. They're trying to write letters and all that because they want to perform some maintenance on their property rather than just to let it sit. So they're trying to, see what they can, what they're allowed to do. So just a mess.
And I had a few landowners call me, wondering what I could do, and I don't know, I don't know what I do that. So,
You're somewhat limited, at least from an electric capacity. Maybe privately, you can do all sorts of things.
there we go. So there's my update.
So the commissioners were paying this out of their operating line item, and obviously there's not gonna be enough, so that's why we're gonna need an additional appropriation to continue.
Right.
And pay Dennis.
We were able to pay the first invoice, and then obviously another one came as invoices often do, and that's what then prompted a discussion. Give us an estimate, so that we can get the right amount here, or advertise for appropriate.
So is it my understanding that the additional or the outstanding invoice $13,156.50?
We were able to pay 10 of that,
Okay, so it's around 3,000 something.
because their operating line item had $10,000 in it.
Right, so that line item is now exhausted, and we have an outstanding one of roughly three and a half. And then again, we have those cost estimates.
I don't know, Mike, you and I had
I
kind
mean,
of talked.
in the discussion, we thought we ought to really appropriate about $30,000 and have it in that line item.
To have it there so that it's able to be used again, ideally, we don't have to use all of it, but right now that line item is 0.
Well, and some of the thoughts are, if this costs 20, then you made whole what they had for operating.
Correct.
Anybody have any questions on that or comments on that? Otherwise, so we would just have we wouldn't be able to appropriate it tonight, would we? Just have
Consensus.
consensus on $30,000 to be moved into the commissioner's operating line. All in favor? It's a consensus, unanimous. Okay, well, thanks for coming in.
You're welcome, thank you, appreciate it, yeah.
Yeah, so we at least understand it, right?
Not crystal clear, but hopefully it's not worse.
I don't know who's gonna stop it.
At least we know where we can start to ask questions.
Well, yeah, it's a huge hole. It is a huge hole.
Mike, thanks again for organizing the tour for jail construction. Very
I'm glad. Just a couple of things. Mark, you want to go? Okay, you want to go first?
Sure, I'll do it. It's only gonna take a little bit.
Close.
You got it now.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Mark Nowacharski, I'm a Du Bois County resident, and just here to share some information. It's kind of fun, and I'm not asking for any money.
Oh, yeah.
So I shared this with the Jasper Council, or actually the mayor's office, I should say, the Jasper Chamber. I know you guys are, it's DuBois County, but Jasper's part of it. So what this is there's an organization called Strong Towns. Strong Towns is a kind of a planning organization that's, and there's a little bit of description on the bottom of it, on what they're about in terms of building better cities and towns, and, you know, what they try to, you know, share with different places. And every year they run an annual contest, and to, you know, it's a fun thing because it's kind of in the bracket like you would for the March Madness type of thing. And 3 weeks ago, I think, I submitted online questionnaires that they required, and learned this past Thursday that Jasper had been selected as one of the 16, top Sweet 16. So what it is now is we are pitted against other communities and stuff like that. So what we're pitted against is a community called Brighton, Michigan. Anyone familiar with Brighton, Michigan? My sister lives there, so I'm very, very familiar with it. And it's just it's an opportunity to vote, you know, our city, you know, the city of Jasper, and have a little fun with it, but get some very positive recognition out of it. There's no like money involved or money prize or anything like that. But there is just that publicity aspect of it. And so if, you know, we're trying to get the word out for everyone to vote. Like I said, the chamber has sent out, they've sent out on their Facebook, on their website, and Heart of Jasper has sent it to the DuBois County Tourism Group. Just trying to get the word out to promote. If we move on to the next level, then there's different things I have to do, and Nancy Eckerly from the chamber and the mayor is, we're gonna team up on that so we can get that information out, hopefully, you know, have a little fun with it.
So you just go on and vote?
Yeah, now, some people have had a little bit of problems. So if you go onto that strongtowns.org/ST media, then you gotta kind of click on, there's a whole graphic there.
That's what I'm trying to do right now.
Yeah.
You scroll down a little bit.
You got to scroll down, yeah.
You hit on the bracket, and you scroll down, you see Bringington and.
Then you gotta hit on the bracket of Brighton and Jasper. And then there's a whole, like, answers to all the questions for Brighton, Michigan, and for Jasper, Indiana. And then on the bottom of that, there just is where you vote. And everyone's only allowed to vote once. Voting ends at noon Central Time on Thursday. And then they apparently announce on Friday who goes on to the next.
But that's gonna per email account.
So could you send me this so I can put the link out?
Yeah, I can send you. Sure.
I guess is that per email account that you include?
Per email account, yes. So get your friends, you know.
So what happens at the end? Who wins?
Who wins? So there's, like I said, it's publicity, it's positive things, it'll get out to the bigger press. Chuck Marone, who is the founding member of Strong Towns, he will come make a formal visit and presentation, stuff like that, so.
Right.
Did you start this?
Did I?
Did you start this? Is that how we got on?
Yes.
Okay.
Nice, thank you.
There's actually one comment on the page that says the guy's from Michigan, so he's biased, but he still thinks the Jasper story is pretty impressive for the size of the town.
That's probably my brother.
That's your sister.
So,
Well, you don't have a lot of time, but we can still get it out.
right, yeah, I'll send it to you tonight.
Yes, and tomorrow I'll send it out.
And Brighton, if you haven't been to it, Brighton it's a larger community than we have here. It has a lot of the same, I mean, it's a nice town, but Jasper is just as nice, if not better. So I think we have a good shot at least getting to the
Well, and
Elite
we'll
Eight.
get it to Chad to put on the Facebook page and we'll go from there.
Great.
You can
Thanks.
always
Thanks,
find comes
Laura.
out when you have to.
All right.
Mark, that's me, I put it on the university's Facebook page.
Yeah.
We're done. Thanks.
Like, that's the only thing you know, the park groundbreaking after the house was out there. That was a good thing, and the courthouse square project did, and it appears, you know, they took them under advisement, so at least they got 3 bids. You know, which was pretty good, you know, in this market, it's, and one of them was from Newburgh and New Albany and Bloomington, I think, 3 towns, I think, from the contractors. So otherwise.
Alex, Craig and I talked with J-RAC meeting, our J-RAC group last week about the rehabilitation dollars and the timeline and all that. And Alex, I hope the meeting went well then after we left.
Yeah, so we were happy we came.
Well, thanks for doing it.
Yeah, and to just give a summary, we more or less told everybody that money will not be available until 24, but this gives them a chance to think of ideas of ways to help with the whole mental status for 23. Because the budgets for 23 is when we will need it.
We told them to be ready budget day, August of 2023, so we can be incorporated with the 2024.
We still use a little bit of it now for the Lily stuff.
Yeah.
That's a small.
So we're happy.
The AIC annual district meeting is gonna be in Huntingburg on March 22nd. They haven't really sent anything out on it.
They were in the flyer.
They haven't, but, it is on their website, and I knew if you guys wanted to go, if you let me know, I'll sign you up to go.
March 22nd.
It says registration and hospitality is from 5:30 to 6. And then I guess the essay winner is at 6 o'clock, the dinner's at 6:15. And their program, so. I just kind of wanted to put it out there, so if you guys want me to sign you up, I will.
You said March 22nd?
March 22nd, it's a Tuesday evening. At the Huntingburg Event Center.
Well, I'm gonna go. I'll definitely go.
Mike, Doug, Alex, Randy,
Oh, sorry.
Alright.
you can't go?
No, I'm gonna be out of town. Yeah, spring break.
Okay, so Becky, Sonia, do you?
You gonna be out of town?
Put my name down, but I'm not positive.
Well, there is a fee to it, so, I mean, but I will not sign up for it until after the commissioners meet on Monday, because I'm gonna ask them first, so.
How much is it?
Doesn't say. Oh, here, $45.
Okay.
I just kinda wanted you to know that's, if you can't go, maybe we'll grab somebody else to go in your place or something.
Okay. If not, tax season, maybe don't really know, because I don't know that I can get out of the office.
Show me.
I'm gonna be out of town.
Okay.
I really would like to go though.
I know, I go every year.
So I got 3 of you then.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know if they're behind or what.
Doug's not going either?
He's gonna be
I'm gonna
gone.
be out of town too. Spring break week.
I know, I really like going to that, because it's just
Yeah.
right there in Huntingburg.
If they had it on Thursday, I could go, but.
I just wanted to bring it up.
Thanks for taking it.
Well, yeah, you like them, if you wanna.
Oh,
Night
yeah.
time thing
Last
last
year,
time.
yeah, we
You
still
wanna
didn't use
stay?
our Belterra overnight yet, that's coming up. Won the door prize last year.
Oh, did you really?
It's like the price of right.
Any other comments, otherwise?
Come on down.
I'll entertain-
Well, we're kind of on time.
I'll entertain a motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So you gotta get back to work, Tony.
Yeah, I do.
I'll cheat.
Got a couple more hours, but it-
So are you in time? What's that? Are you in time?
Oh, yeah, I have to pick up the pizza by 7:20.
Oh.